come. But let's turn now to Paul Dorfman, because he's with the Energy Institute at UCL, University College London. Paul Dorfman, thank you for being with us. There's some key announcements coming out here in the last half an hour. Is this good news for Britain's nuclear industry, or do you take a different view?
It in fact could be problematic for the nuclear industry. The reactor itself does seem to be of concern. Just a number of months ago, EDF told the French regulators that there were significant flaws in the reactor pressure vessels already installed in a similar reactor, in a similar build in France and in China. So there are some real concerns here.
You're talking about Hinkley?
Yes, absolutely. The Hinkley, the EPR, which is the same reactor blend that's planned for Hinkley. There are a couple of builds that are going on in Europe, one in Flamanville in France and one in Olkiluoto in Finland. Both of these builds are 3 to 4 times over cost and 3 to 4 times over time. Allied to that, the French regulators have just been informed a couple of months ago by EDF, after Areva essentially went out of business and EDF bought them out, that there were significant flaws in the reactor pressure vessels that contain the reactor already installed in Flamanville and in 2 EPRs in China. Now, the problem with this is that although they're not systemic flaws, they're very serious. The French regulators are looking into them. The tests won't be ready until the middle of next year, so there's no way of knowing if the reactor can go ahead in any case. And the big question is what does this say for quality assurance here?
And so are you suggesting that these sort of deals today, no matter who's making them, actually shouldn't go ahead until those problems that you're outlining there have been resolved?
I don't believe they can go ahead. In terms of what's being signed today, I'm unsure as to whether it's a final signature. I doubt it very much. The Times this morning reported that any final decision would come further down the line. And of course you have to remember that UK state aid subsidy to the nuclear industry is under a legal challenge by the Austrian government through the European Courts of Justice. And analogue cases like this maybe take up to 2 years. So there are a number of hurdles before we can think about any new builds in the UK.
And just a final point, I mean, more broadly in terms of these overall deals, do you have concerns that because the investment is from China, because it is from the state that it is from, or would you have concerns about any overseas investment? Because, for example, France, EDF has been investing for some time.
Well, the deal itself is very expensive. We've got a 35-year deal at twice the price we currently pay for electricity, which will be index linked with loan guarantees to provide us with about 3.2 megawatts of power at Hinkley. If we invested a similar amount of money, we'd get about 20,000 megawatts of wind without a problem. So the deal itself, and any kind of analyst, FT, Guardian, Times, Telegraph, Economist, Spectator, have all said the deal is, problematic. In terms of security, there are concerns about security. There's no question about it. The problems with China installing backdoor IT technology to seed data is a well-known issue here. Now, nuclear power plants last maybe 20, 30, sometimes 40 years. Our diplomatic relationships with China can rise and fall within that time. So there are certainly security issues here that haven't really quite yet been resolved.
Paul Dorfman, thank you very much for joining us from the Energy Institute at UCL. Well, as I say, we're waiting to hear that news conference from David Cameron and Xi Jinping. That is due within the next half an hour. As soon as that gets underway, we will of course be back there to hear all of that. Doubtless lots of questions about everything we've just been discussing here over the last little while. So much more to come from there. We'll be with you for that news conference as soon as it gets underway. For now, from here in Downing Street, Simon, back to you.